Because if you keep fucking quitting on yourself, you're going to be exactly where you are today at the end of this year. And I can guarantee that's not what you want. There's always a next level. It doesn't mean that where you're at right now is not good enough. It means that there's a next level of good, and then a next level of good, and a next level of good. You can keep moving forward, even if your life is great today. Stop fucking quitting on yourself. I just watched a couple hours of videos from some workshops I did a few years ago when I was really stepping into building my business and building my business on my own. And what's really interesting about this is I had already worked through my limitations. I believed in myself. I was showing up authentic. I was doing all these different things. I wasn't worried. I wasn't nervous to get on camera. There was nothing like that that was creeping in. So you would think there wasn't any self-sabotaging behaviors. But the cosmic joke of this is that I quit on myself. I want to talk about that because I was successful. Things were going really well. I wasn't quitting because it wasn't working out. I quit because it was working out. And the working out is what I was so unfamiliar with. I didn't know what to do with my momentum. I didn't know how to make it to the next step because I was so used to setting in discomfort or failure or quitting. And so that's what I did. I did the thing that I'm used to doing, which is quitting on myself. I got a little momentum. I got a little success. I got that going. And it was so unfamiliar. I didn't know how to move forward. So I don't know if you can relate to this because a lot of people think that they are not moving forward. They think that they're self-sabotaging because they're so scared of success. But what I find to be the most often, in my case specifically, is that I was so familiar with failure that it felt so much more comfortable than stepping into a version of me that was successful. And so what I did in those moments is I made an excuse. I found something different to do. I kept creating all these different things. And I'm like, no, let's do this. Let's pivot. Let's create this type of offer. Let's do something different instead of just freaking doubling down on what was working and moving forward. I even like pulled myself back and was like, I don't even want to have a business on my own. And then I was just got more coaching clients with the coaching company I was working for. And I stepped into a different role, training role. I did all that. And I thought it was because that it was what was more aligned. But I was truly avoiding questioning myself. I was truly avoiding me asking myself the real question and finding out the real answer of why I did that. And that was because I was gaining momentum. It's because I was becoming successful. And now that version of me, although I was confident and I was showing up aligned, I hadn't overridden my natural default of feeling like I'm not good enough or smart enough or capable enough. That truly was the operating system that I operated my entire life out of. Every decision I made was made from, you're not smart enough. Don't do it. They're going to find out how dumb you are. So when I got into this system and immediately I was getting this momentum and this success, what happened was that wasn't even a fear at the time. That default habit came up for me. And instead of questioning it, I rode that wave. Well, I'll just double down and get more hours and I'll do that because it's so much easier than having a business on your own. Those are the stories I told myself. That's the place I was living out of. And it was all from fear, and not fear of failure, fear of success. I tasted success and it was so unfamiliar to me. I didn't know what to do with it. So you have to ask yourself, what is it that is creating the blocks in your life? And then you have to keep going with it. I was actively avoiding it. And the thing here is that you're going to continue to actively avoid it until it's ready to be seen. And then it just becomes this funny awareness that you have. And then you see it when it arises. And then you don't fall into that trap. And that's the difference. But for me, I was even telling myself that I was so completely healed and over it. I wasn't even willing to look at it. I was just leaning into excuses. I was just leaning into the comfort of quitting on myself because quitting on myself was so freaking familiar. Disappointing myself was so easy because I was so used to it. So used to it. I disappointed myself when I set a workout goal. I disappointed myself when I set a business goal or a life goal, anything. I was so used to just disappointing myself. It felt familiar, like a nice warm blanket. That was all mine. And it was so much easier to disappoint myself than to step into disappointment from others or to disappoint others, or for people to see that I wasn't good enough yet again. So I could live in my disappointment because I was familiar with my disappointment. And what I've noticed along the way, when you start to question that and you start to be willing to experience life differently, is that discomfort becomes so much more comfortable. And now that awareness begins to dissolve the borders and the edges of the habits that we've created for ourselves, those habits that keep us stuck in those cycles. So oftentimes people get really wrapped up into this. And this is what happened to me, is that I believe in myself. I'm confident. I can do this. I don't doubt myself. I don't care what anyone thinks about me. All of those things were true. But what I was doing, I was falling back into default patterns and habits that pulled me back from success, that pulled me away from where I was going out of habit, out of default, out of a lack of awareness that I was doing it. So even if you feel open and expansive and like you're living your life on your terms, you have to take it a step further and say, but am I really? Am I where I want to go? And if the answer is no, then there's something that's holding you back and it's you. So how are you doing that? How are you throttling your momentum? How are you pulling yourself back? What does that look like in your life and in your experience? And begin to question it. Begin to allow yourself to step into a space of a deeper understanding of you. Because if you keep fucking quitting on yourself, you're going to be exactly where you are today at the end of this year. And I can guarantee that's not what you want. There's always a next level. It doesn't mean that where you're at right now is not good enough. It means that there's a next level of good, and then a next level of good, and a next level of good. You can keep moving forward, even if your life is great today. There's always another barrier. There's always another push through. There's always a next level. But we don't look at that like I'm not good enough today. We look at it like, oh my gosh, how exciting. There's a next level. I'm not going to fucking quit. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to become this version of myself that is unstoppable. And I can only do that by questioning why I'm holding myself back and where I'm holding myself back and where maybe I'm falling into patterns and habits and behaviors of the past that aren't actually serving me, that I actually don't believe anymore. I haven't believed the story that I wasn't smart enough or capable enough in a long time, in a really years. And it was still showing up in my business because I built habits around it, because I built actions around it, because I had told and conditioned myself to pull back. That's it. It doesn't have to be driven by the fear today. You've built habits around these things. So if it's something that's deeply ingrained in you, it's something that you've done often, you have to be willing to go back, do that work, pivot, and do something different. So I want to know, what's your commitment to yourself? Where are you not quitting on you? Whether it's your health, your fitness, your business, I don't care. I just want to know this year where you're not quitting on yourself.